Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second episode of the Table Trash Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Red Nightwing, joined today by CombatMagi,
Blah.
Will of the Winds,
It'll be pop.
and our special guest today from the LoadingCrew channel, Stuart. It's
Howdy,
okay, but
friendo. Oh,
it's
sorry.
okay. Oh, sorry. That's my. It's fine.
Mr. The Loading Crew.
Mr. The Loading Crew.
We get combat with that all the time. CombatMagi from the CombatMagi YouTube
I will
channel.
punch someone.
Hey, it's my favorite YouTube channel by someone named CombatMagi.
I-
CombatMagi channel.
I will come to Germany and break into your military base, Will.
Joke's on you. There's no joke.
Anyway, we've got a rather good docket for you today. We're gonna start the discussion with a discussion of settings between Homebrew and Not. Then we'll lead into some news, and Stuart's got a nice couple of people he's working with to talk about there. Then we'll be talking about dealing with player deaths, both on the GM side and on the player side. Then we'll have closing remarks and let our good friends Stuart here. What's it called in Loading Crew? Shamelessly shill.
Pretty much.
But before we start into discussion, Stuart, you wanna tell the good people who may not have heard about you who you are and what you do?
Impossible. Literally everybody knows me. It's fine. I'm like a household name at this point. Like
You're a David
people. I'm one of those first name celebrities where it's like, oh, it's Cher, it's Oprah, and Stuart. Okay, like right up there. It's
It's
right up
nice
there.
to know you're humble, Stuart.
Anyway, so yeah, my name is Stuart, and I have a channel called The Loading Crew, and we got our start basically doing Pokemon D&D. I have since extended into D&D alignment videos, which then kind of evolved into various video essays, and I am kind of the black sheep of the D&D community because I refuse to talk about 5th edition.
I mean, fair enough.
I mean, at least I honestly prefer that to the subset of people that just come out and bash 5th edition.
I mean, like D&D content is already kind of limited, and the golden age of D&D content is kind of over, like halfway into season 2 of Critical Role. So it like everyone's either moving on, evolving their content, or just doing other things, or they're just recycling the same views. I am the channel. I am the D&D channel that has like half of my views from a campaign, like a third of my views from has-been video essays, and then some views from D&D video essays.
Oh,
But
I-
raise your bat. I did a funny.
uh,
But
that is a little one thing. I do miss your Dragon of the Grove videos.
I see. I was going to like. I have the next one like recorded and edited, and it's like on the channel, just sitting there in private, and I just never wanted to publish it. Like that has happened several times where I've gotten really far into the process, and then I just drop it because I fucking hate what I produced. I'm very picky, especially when it comes to my own stuff. So
Yeah,
But
I can
for-
understand that. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, when it comes to like projects and shit like that, it's kind of gets hard. Kind of gets hard to have motivation after a while to finish what you start.
yeah, especially because YouTube is it's such an odd machine. Either like either you strike gold and you've got a golden personality and people want to like see you every day, like you're Markiplier or PewDiePie or somebody, or you're someone who spit shines a project until like it is just a golden goose like JonTron, or you're someone who drops something once a week and you're feeding on addiction like me. So
I mean, to be fair, the numbers are. I don't, of course, know the ins and outs because the besides this podcast, which is posted to YouTube, my one experience was you remember back in the mid to late 2000s when everybody and their brother was hopping on the Let's Player bandwagon.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that is my only other experience. I think I did a one full Let's Play of a Love Hina game for the Game Boy Advance, and that was it.
Well,
Yeah,
it's oh, go ahead.
Would I thought that you did a Final Fantasy something or Final Fantasy
That was
Tactics
with
something or
me, and
other.
we never finished that.
Yeah, that was on Combat's channel, and that was a Let's Play, but more framed as, hey, here's this thing I love because I love the GBA and DS tactics games. Not that the PS1 one is a bad game or anything, but
Dude, I'm in your
Mhm.
boat. I'm in your boat so hard because I love Tactics and Tactics A2, but I don't know why. I have started PS1 Tactics like 5 times, never got past the first 3 sessions.
I
Like,
think it's the spells. Like, I think I hate spellcasting in that game because it makes sense that your spells have to charge, especially your more powerful ones. Like in a gameplay progression, I see what they're going to, but you know, I don't want to waste my Thundaga and just have the group of people I was going to hit spread like roaches.
yeah, like Final Fantasy. We're getting off topic, I know, but like Final Fantasy has always had a problem with balancing spells, especially in their Tactics games, because Tactics Advanced, spellcasting was broken in Endgame because you could just spam Ultima, and then spellcasting was only good in A2 with like very specific class mixing because like turbo like half MP and some other shit was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's been a while since I played A2, but the biggest change between A1 and A2 was I played A1 recently. If I remember correctly, A2 starts you at 0 MP, whereas A1 started you with a full MP gauge at the start of the battle, so you could spam
Hmm.
magic.
Hmm. Well, like you basically, if you had a white mage and turbo MP, by the end game you had so much mana it didn't matter. Like
Hmm.
it did not matter. I would just like 65 MP out of my 500 to cast Ultima. That's double. Yeah, okay. I'll also use a bow with it.
Okay, to get us slightly back on topic, on top of Stuart's Pokemon tabletop, you ran a Pathfinder game, a couple of them technically.
Gross.
Technically, yeah.
Technically, they had all the same people and most of the same characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a little more team. We had a little more Team 4-star that we abducted, but yeah.
And we'll talk about your best $20 later if we have time.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But yeah, if we want to lead into getting on topic, our first topic is setting. The and basically just talking about the difference between the one you craft yourself, which me and I think we had the conversation when we were in the planning stages, Stuart. Me and you seem to like to do a lot is meticulously handcraft everything, and using a box setting, which are both
or
valid
just
options.
well, I guess the difference is like it's not just box settings, but also like settings that the settings where the rules have kind of been written beforehand. Like, say, for example, Pokemon. You there's not really much you can do with the Pokemon themselves, so you'd have to work with the region that you're working on. I guess. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah, Pokemon's fascinating as an IP because, like, essentially, Pokemon is most charming because it's a giant bestiary, and you could do whatever you want with that. Um,
Mhm.
Now, the anime has shaped kind of our perception of Pokemon for the most part, in that anyone who writes a Pokemon story kind of paces it and does it like the anime. But you
Mhm.
can do it however you want. Like our friend Megami, she does that mystery dungeon campaign, and it's pretty good. Um,
Magami from the Magami 33 channel.
yes, the Megami 33 channel on YouTube that does covers that Megami 33.
Ah, she does some good covers.
I
I,
like
I
her
was
covers.
I wasn't knocking her covers. I was just stating, yeah.
I know, I know. I was just making a comment. I was trying to be in part of the
Yeah,
conversation.
I was shilling for her sake, since she could.
Yeah, yeah, but with the Pokemon universe, I mean, I'm technically running a game that's using a concept. I'm running I don't know if you saw it, Stuart, because it was a long time ago, but I am running a game set in Ore for Pokemon.
Yeah, and it's a great. And as a player, I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, it all depends. Like the formula, you go like what type of formula were you thinking of, Stuart? Like, oh, go here, find out the problem, deal with problem,
Fight
within
gym.
your like be the hero, that sort of thing.
Could you repeat the question for me?
Like when you talked about the Pokemon formula that people follow due to the anime, what were you talking about?
Oh yeah, the good old do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. The basically you're a professional trainer in a gym
Mm-hmm.
run, and the way I interpreted that is they're basically like pro athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's got a unique sports system that is really good, and I haven't seen a sporting system like what Pokemon the gym badge thing in like any fantasy setting ever. It is like incredibly unique, and that is a good drawing point because one, it sets a goal, it sets an adventure, it gives you towns and locations to do. Honestly,
Mhm.
like just that formula, the whole 8 gym badge run or 10 gym badges or however you want many you want to put in your region, it's all good stuff. Like just using that gives you plenty of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And with the sporting thing, like especially now, love it or hate it, like that was probably one of my favorite things about Sword and Shield is they're leaning more into. Oh yeah, this is just a sport. We have arenas for it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of feelings about that, but they tried. I will say that.
I mean, I like Sword
I
and
don't.
Shield because
Yeah, my
it.
my
Oh, go ahead.
my opinion. I'm sorry. My opinion on Sword and Shield is that it is one of the best gym runs. But not the best game.
Yeah,
my
every game has
my
their. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Stuart.
my thought is like the boss fights, the actual fights and the events of and how they staged the boss fights with the gym leaders are really good. Especially the final boss fight. It is the first time I played a Pokemon game where I felt like I am fighting a boss and it's not unfair.
Mhm.
Um, because with Pokemon, it is just an obnoxious numbers game or cheese strategies. Either
Mm-hmm.
your numbers are better or you've come up with some cheesy bullshit to win.
Ultra
Um,
Necrozma.
yeah,
Just have a
that is
dark type.
that is the that is the most offensive
Ugh.
boss battle I have ever seen because his numbers are just big and you
I
can't beat it.
I
Um,
nuzlocke to get that game, Stuart.
did you use Monkey Jones's cheese?
I don't like. I've heard of Mumkey and of course through things you've done, but I've never actually watched any Mumkey content.
So I saw this through Monkey, so I call it the Monkey Jones strategy. But basically, he went into the Necrozma fight with a Pumpkaboo that had Destiny Bond or whatever it was, um, and he had a choice scarf on it. So like Necrozma went first, hit him with prismatic bullshit. It survived, and then it used that move where if it faints, Necrozma faints, and he won. Like
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah,
So,
that's
Yeah.
Destiny mod.
Yes.
Fear Rotana.
His signature move psychic, so I brought in an Umbreon and just I only had to heal like 3 or 4 times before I was able to beat it. But yeah, so long as you have a dark type, it's not as scary because it can't hit you with big dick, damage numbers.
right.
Bringing this back to
Setting.
Setting, yes.
the main benefit that I can see with like pre-built settings like Pokemon or Forgotten Realms or what have you is that it's there. You can bend it to your the rules the setting has already been written. You don't need to put as much thought into it. That you can go into more detail on the areas that you're focusing on, as opposed to what wide swaths of areas because if, that's what I can see as the main benefit behind pre-built settings.
See, I don't do pre-built settings almost ever because I find it lazier and easier to make up my own stuff. Um, like I know
Yeah.
that sounds weird, but it's like the lazier method to me. It is easier for me to produce something from nothing than to master somebody else's setting to the point where I can teach it.
Yeah.
Because essentially being a DM is you are an amateur game designer and you are an amateur writer and essentially a manager of a thing, which is a lot of cross skills that I discovered with teaching. Like if you're a good teacher, you're a good DM, like and vice versa.
Especially when you can keep the attention of your students.
Mhm.
It's a good thing I never went into teaching then.
Right. So like for me, it was easier for me to make shit up. Like it was just like, all right, this is a castle town. What's in it? Fucking elves. I don't give a shit. What do? They do apple
Farming.
magic. Okay, they do apple magic. Okay, sure. What does apple magic mean? And then just my brain from doing that so often makes 1,000 or whatever um like scenarios just from apple farming, and it's like, okay, there's an apple farmer there. What kind of magic is that? I don't even have to know what apple magic is. The players ask, what do you do with apple magic? Well, okay, they take apples and they hit
The
them with
magic
their
of it.
they hit that shit with magic, and it either like it's wild magic, like it's now an apple grenade, or it's a fucking seed bomb. I don't know. Like it's easier for me to do that, like even either on the fly or preemptively, than it is for me to master someone else's setting.
And that
Yeah.
definitely. Oh, go ahead, Ren.
Yeah,
Uh,
my problem with pre-built settings, especially like D&D wise, just because that's the biggest lens people will view this through, is I kind of hate the D&D writing style. I hate to put it this way, and like if anybody from staff ever listens to this, like I'm not knocking you guys, like you are doing a lot more than I am doing right now, so please don't take offense, but like it might be because I've been around since like late second edition D&D, but like there are just certain things D&D writing does that bothers me.
Okay, well, especially okay, so there's a lot of going into this, but I will give them this. They are limited because they are such a huge company. They are limited by PR.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
But
And if they like like
they can't
the
go
orc,
they can't.
you remember the orc thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole orc thing, there some dumbass went on Twitter and said, "Wow, this statement about orcs is outdated and racist." And I'm like, shut up. Like, no, it's not. It is a completely different thing. And so D&D had to shift its entire culture to match PR because it is the most popular setting, and they are like subject to being the like on the eyes of everybody. Me, as this like shitty little nobody, I could probably sell 1,000 books about an evil orc clan and all orcs are evil because nobody's paying attention to me, you know?
which is especially weird. That speaking of that, that is like a very weird train of thought, because where orcs came from, they were written by J.R.R. Tolkien to basically be generic, generic, just evil bad guys, which is really
Well, the criticism with Tolkien is and it is a lot of criticism that people give D&D too, because it sticks to those tropes, is Tolkien, and especially older D&D, operates on a very black and white morality, like fairy tale morality, and
Mhm.
good
like
guys win, bad guys lose.
yeah, and to the credit of like the new age and stuff, we've been exposed to so many different types of stories. Just some people don't vibe with black and white morality anymore. I mean, to be fair, I prefer shades of shades of gray. Like in my setting in Moon, which Stuart, you'll get a kick out of this. The Moon's a beholder.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, and their magic doesn't work at night, or doesn't work in direct moonlight anymore at night because of it. But
That's dope as fuck. That's awesome.
yeah,
If I remember right, that character, that like setting concept started from like a joke, which is funny.
Yeah.
I think it
No.
started from the Moon's haunted meme.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Moon's a beholder. What? Loads gun. Moon's a beholder.
Yeah, but
See, that's a dope as shit idea. Like that really is. That's a lot. There's a lot you could do with that.
and
Wow.
of course they've and like that's the thing they're dealing with on a macro level, but on a micro level they're discovering like the Adventurers Guild is super corrupt, and one of the players wants to start a new Adventurers Guild, because the Adventurers Guild in my world is basically just bureaucracy hell.
Oh man.
So going back to the whole like uh, uh, homebrew versus pre-built. As somebody who's actually like tried to run a homebrew setting, it was personally, it was just kind of hard to describe what I was talking about at times, and because as GM, you should know enough about your world that you could tell it, like you said, you could share it. But there's also those people who are just like, I need to add more detail. I need to fix this. It needs to make sense on a small scale, and so there's just a lot to keep track of.
Yeah. And
I mean, like you can like I ignore those people. Like I do what I want. Like I'm
sorry.
that's fine.
it
That's the thing. No. That's fine. That's fine. You can absolutely do that. Like, just do it to your own satisfaction.
Mhm.
Don't like. No one's. If you mess up, almost nobody is going to know but you. Unless you fuck up colossally, and then make that part of the adventure. Like, oh god, like trying to come up with an immediate example. Let's say players are hunting vampires and they find his lair and it's like, oh, the vampire's long gone, and they're like, well, how did he do that? Because he would have to travel during the day. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Scribbled furiously, like scribbles furiously on a piece of paper. Yeah, that is really fucking weird, isn't it? Yeah, god.
The blade music starts.
It reminds me of that one meme. I'm sorry.
If I was trying to make this point earlier when it was brought up, that all ties to improv, however. And personally, I'm not the greatest with improv. Like, I curse one of my players. I like having maps have just random people around. They're supposed to be background characters. He went and talked to every single character. And I had to, like you said, make random stuff up that ended up sticking in that town, like the woman on the dock praying for her sailor husband to come home safely, but she was praying to Groudon, not Kyogre.
Oh my god.
uh, it, what you said, Stuart, reminded me of that one meme where it's just like, hey, it's where it's just like how you plan a mystery is that you don't actually plan the mystery. You just set out a bunch of facts and then read the player's notes and then see what's your favorite solution, and that's the correct answer.
Right.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
mean,
way to do it. Sorry, do it.
no. I would say unless you're making a very, very tight single, like enclosed adventure that requires very minute details to work, I would not worry about it. So, for example, the session that I worked on the most out of anything I've ever done
Oh
was
no.
I'm not joking, the murder mystery thing in it's coming up on the channel soon, but we've live streamed it months ago. This was when they were at the bottom of the Manaphy Palace and the players had to find evidence to prove their innocence. So they had to walk around to each individual room of all of these guests and calculate alibis on where exactly people were. And
Mhm.
that was the only session where I meticulously had every single detail planned out, and that was really, really fun, but I will never
It was
fucking do it again. Like,
I'll be honest. I when you started talking, you're like, I planned out everything. I'm like, and then Venti Steamroller.
and then suddenly stopped.
I mean, I've done sessions where I have planned out an entire village, like 40 people, personalities, backstories, all that shit. Um, and they were supposed to go into it, and there were lots of plot hooks with characters' families, and there was lore on the people that was tracked. This was Dragons of the Grove, mind you.
Mhm.
And like instead of going into this village, they're like, let's go right. And they just bypass the village entirely. And I'm like, well, okay.
Let's go on a boat.
And it's
This
not
is
like I could have like moved the village, because that village was in a very specific spot with very specific goals in mind. So I would say have whenever you're planning something, always just make it nice and just vague enough. Like this town, like I said, this town is an elf town and they do apple magic. What is apple magic? You can figure it out a little bit, but as far as the minute details go, I prefer to leave that to improv and player organics. So
Mhm.
let the players figure it out. What
yeah,
apple magic is.
or let whatever their question guides them into, that is always more exciting. We had this really cool moment in one of my GM for hires where the players were on like a bifrost, they were on like a rainbow bridge,
Mhm.
and they were trying to bypass these angels fighting these giants. And like it was a mixed match of various giants. Like there was a shadow giant, there was like a thunder giant, and they were all fighting various angels. And the players were like, fuck these angels. They killed the angels and teamed up with the giants. And and like
Two embodiments of good right there.
well, they fought angels earlier, and most angels were kind of dicks. I mean, as you do in a fantasy setting.
Mhm.
Uh, but they started talking to this one giant. Now, I didn't have anything planned for him to say. I had no personality, nothing. But they just like they opened a conversation, and because I couldn't think of anything to say, I created a language barrier right away. And I said, okay, you cannot talk to him unless you do some magic doohickeys. Well, one of the players had tongues, and I said, cool. So when they greeted this giant, I just made up, okay, in his shadow giant tongue, he respond because I couldn't think of a personality. I said he responds with a specific hello that is said by a professional. And there are 3 hellos in their language. I'm making this up on the spot, and I have no idea what the fuck I'm saying. And I said, the Shadow Giant language has 3 hellos, one given as casual, one given among military, and one given as professionals. And you got the professional one. And they're like, cool. So they pursued it that way. And by
So
the
that
end of
means,
it,
yeah, they could derive that from, okay, they're not casual. This is not a casual conversation, but they're not military either, type of
yeah,
thing, and they can.
yeah, exactly. And by the end of it, they one person offered the giant a wine or some alcohol or something, and she was a professional brewer, and I had her roll it, and she rolled really well, and I said cool. So the giant pulled out his own flask of wine, and they traded wine. And I created a new magic item on the fly called Shadow Wine, and it gave them like evil properties while they drank it for a while. So it was just neat. Like
Mhm.
that came up. I had no plans in that regard. That shit just happened in the conversation. So
Fair enough. Well, I think it's the difference between honestly it's the difference between one what you need your setting to do, like very personally very personally in Moon I've only mentioned places in the world where they can go, like that I have planned that they can go people talk about. Like right now they're delivering a message to the Emperor and basically doing side quests along the way. Like here's this thing, this family needs help. You've ran into town in the middle of a festival.
You've given this person a pineapple, and now they think you're rich, and they're gonna try to marry their daughter off to you.
Yep, I did that to Combat the other day because I'm like, well, pineapple's a tropical fruit and you're pretty inland. So yeah, that's an expensive piece of fruit right there. You
Oh, hello.
and to be fair, like they found out that like yeah, this village was doing their harvest festival even though the harvest was bad. They were trying to keep up morale and do stuff, but like these people were desperate and his character Snack outwardly showed that he had money. So they're like, hey, I'm gonna get my dog with him and share in the wealth. Because that's what you did. Morality aside, that's what you did back then.
I was
Dude.
just trying to be nice.
But
Yeah.
no. But no, it is honestly on what you want your setting to do. Like written settings are nice. Like if you have the time, Stuart, and I know you're not a big fan of 5e from our talking, but read the just look up a synopsis of the Humblewood setting. It's all animal based. I'm actually playing one of its races in our buddy Merc's game on Sundays, where he's running through the Adventures League content to get a handle on GMing.
is it okay? Is it? I think I've heard of it. I think they did a Kickstarter for a
Yeah,
setting once.
yeah.
Is
It
that
was
right?
a. It's like a Deca Mini sort of related thing.
Yeah, I
Right.
believe it is in
Yeah,
fact Deca Mini.
yeah. The Kickstarter was being supported by XP to level 3 for a while.
Right.
And I feel like I saw a couple other people like maybe not. Dingo's done Deca Mini, but I don't know if they did Humblewood.
She
And
she
they're
did do Humblewood.
okay.
But yeah,
Anyway,
it is honestly and it's honestly like as a GM, what do you need? Are you like me and Stuart who can be like, hey, this is a village, and like what Stuart was talking about? Or are you that GM that like needs to have the concrete answer you flip to like page 351 in your setting book and be like, let's see, in this country elves make textiles. Yeah, apparently all they do is textiles.
Man, boy, they could talk your ear off about textiles for hours. Man.
I I back when my mother used to play Dungeons and Dragons for a little bit, and one of the characters that she played was a half elf half elf merchant whose whole thing was selling apples. Like nothing. Like she knew everything about the buying and selling of apples, and it's just great. It was just great to hear about a few of what she was talking about, like the backgrounds and whatnot.
Yep, you
It was
can
just
do a
great.
lot of wacky things. And I
Mhm.
think, like Ren was saying, it's what you need as a GM. Just because
Mhm.
you 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 feel you don't have the improv to do a homebrew and just kind of go off the fly, and you need a setting, that doesn't make you a worse GM or a worse player. It's just it honestly, modules are a good way for people to understand how to GM, kind of how Merc is doing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not that homebrew settings are inherently better. Like, for example, you can build a fun game based on the uh, based off of Final Fantasy Tactics, and have it be nothing but like all about like the kind of mechanics behind the world of Final Fantasy Tactics, and just have it so that, and that's kind of your setting. It doesn't have to be like you're not inherently less creative just because you're using you're starting from somebody else's work.
Well, that and I'm not gonna speak for everybody here, especially Stuart, but like I steal shit. Hell, I think I did the math when I was doing it earlier, just to have it for the Imperial City. A quarter of the Imperial City's population is Final Fantasy races, Moogles, Bonga.
and there are some amazing systems that their their setting is kind of tied into the mechanics of the system. Like, for example,
Okay.
Legends of Five Rings. It's kind of built with the concept of you're going to be playing in Rokugan. This is how Rokugan is, and this is how people in Rokugan act.
Well, it's not like it's not like, since I'm doing Pokemon, it would be very hypocritical of me to say you're unoriginal for doing a pre-made setting when I am using Pokemon. That is not my property. I did not come up with all 1,584 of those creatures. So like,
But you do
Aren't
have
they in
your
like
own region.
yeah, like that's the thing too. Like, even let's say you are playing in Forgotten Realms, you could just make your own fucking continent. No one's stopping you. Like,
Mhm.
do you think the D&D police are gonna come up and go, "Oi, did you pay for that? Pay for that oiling license?" Oh, I
Fuck,
didn't.
fuck,
I don't
fuck,
imagine.
fuck.
Don't imagine Gary Gygax to be appreciating that book.
I
That kind of
mean,
shit.
so you're saying
Fucking
they won't be
Mercer at the
blizzard.
window. Mercer at the windowsill just leans his head in your window. Hey, what you
he
doing?
throws a he throws a pool noodle at your head over
Yeah,
and over
exactly.
again.
Nobody
Uh,
cares, Matt Mercer. Exactly.
That is definitely a topic we've talked about. Like, I'm not going to get into it here, but preview for future podcasts, we will eventually be tackling the quote unquote Matt Mercer effect.
mhm.
Yeah,
it, it's been
yeah,
covered before, but
That,
yeah,
that, that is the one where everyone thinks you got to be like Critical Role.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. The one that Mercer himself came out and was like, we're this group, like we're Critical Role, and we were doing this before we got a show.
Mhm.
We got a show. We're actually friends and stuff, and also we're professional actors.
yeah,
So,
I
so
mean,
it,
like,
it's a
But it's
pretty
not.
high standard.
yeah. And
mhm.
Stuart
Not.
you did your own video on that technically as well before you brought attention other smaller groups.
Mhm. It, just to follow up on that a little bit. The the Mercer effect doesn't just affect people who watch Critical Role. It affects anyone who judges their work based off of the work of others and thinks they're inherently worse. And that's just wrong, and that's bad, and you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, Will.
I was thinking about that, but
Oh shit! I hope the ding was in the call. Please tell me you have the dings on combat on your end.
I
I
think
did
I
not
do,
get
but I'm
attacked
not sure it
today.
would have been picked up.
I did
That-
not need to be attacked like this.
That was funny.
Look, you did it yourself. But I think the point, and we can still go into this for a while long. But I think the overarching point is just, hey, settings are great, and as long as you're having fun as the GM, and your players are having fun, it doesn't matter what setting you use. It really
Mhm.
doesn't. Like,
Mhm.
this is a
You're-
hobby.
Really, when you get down to it, what are you accomplishing when you're doing D&D? Are you okay, so minus the weirdos like me who are making a living on it, like, and even then not all my money comes from D&D. It comes from various places, but like
like the loading crew store where you can sell Dakimakura.
I'm glad that my shilling has become such a meme. I don't even need to shill my own shit anymore. Like, like yeah, right, like that. Yeah.
I guess we should cover this really quick since we're talking about shilling. Stuart has a Patreon that we, the three of us in this call, other than Stuart, has given to in the past. So, but we didn't pay him to be here. At least, not on paper.
Not yet.
we paid with hot dogs.
We gotta see how the analytics do, Stuart, and then the check will be in the mail.
I accept Dogecoin and AMC stock.
I'm sorry, I only have GameStop stock.
I'll take that. It's at a reduced rate. That's fine.
I have zero GameStop stock.
Anyway,
Don't fucking lie to me.
I said I had it. I had zero.
Oh, okay, fine. Whatever, you language weirdo.
Anyways.
Hey.
But do we still just quick time check
42.
related stuff. Yeah, 42. We are at the 42-minute mark. We can transition into the news, but if you guys want to talk about this a little bit more, we can as well. I'm fine either way.
I think we're good. I know, Stuart, you said you didn't like you don't really touch 5th edition, and so you might not have looked into it that much, but I actually wanted your opinion of making a Dampier a kind of a, not its own race, it's kind of an add-on to a race.
Yeah. So so 5e came out with their new Unearthed Arcana, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. If you remember back in the day, Stuart, Dampier was its own race, and I think it still is in like Pathfinder.
Okay. So Dampier is half vampire, right?
Usually,
like naturally,
yes.
yeah, like naturally born vampire is what the lore used to be. I don't know what it is now.
Hold on, I'm looking at it. I'm on D&D Beyond right now. Okay, they often arise from encounters with it, but nearly all manner. Okay, necromat. Oh, okay. So you roll for your origin. Oh, that's neat. Okay, I like that. You are the reincarnation of an ancestor who is a vampiric tyrant. Neat. I like that. Your pact with a predatory deity causes you to share their. Okay, that's cool. Well, immediately I like this. Like that is a neat idea where you are a Dampier of random origins, or you can make up your own.
Well, this is something I've noticed when it comes to like 5e is that there's a lot of like rolling for X. There's a lot of like optional rolling for X personality trait or X origin. Like, what was that book called? Where, which book was it? I'm brain farting so bad.
Oh, even the player's handbook has that in background to personality checks.
I think it was like not Mordenkainen's, Xanathar's. I think it was.
I don't know. I view that stuff as a challenge mode for people who play D&D a lot, where they're like, okay, let's just randomly roll our characters, and then we have to roleplay that.
That or
That's not really hard mode. It's just a way to make characters.
it's also like I everybody's situation, and Stuart's actually a functioning adult, so he probably doesn't have this problem as much as the rest of us. But it's that kind of stuff is really good for people like me who have multiple D&D games, and sometimes you can't keep your characters straight. Like, hey, and that's really good shorthand for. Oh yeah, I now remember who this is. Like, I'm playing a sea shanty bard in a campaign I just joined a couple weeks ago, and like having that shorthand of, oh, I enjoy a good joke even if it's at my expense, is just a good shorthand thing.
But anyway, so you like the idea of it being like an additional like race option instead of its own race, Stuart?
In Pathfinder, they called them templates whenever you slap them on top of an already existing thing. So, for
Like
example,
half-dragon or not.
yeah, so
Like
like
Sorry.
let's no, that's fine. Like let's say, for example, I am playing a Saiyan or an elf, whatever. I'm playing an elf, all right, and my elf gets bitten by a vampire. He then becomes thank you. Sorry, my wife brought me Diet Coke. The beautiful woman. Thank you.
Hi, Elena.
Thank you. You're the best. Okay. Sorry, I wanted Diet Coke like since this morning. So.
Nah, it's fine.
The fuck was I saying? Anyway, so I'm playing an elf, right? And the elf gets bitten by a vampire. Well, I don't lose my elf powers becoming a vampire. I just gain vampire powers, you know? So, like, Dampier, like, in the traditional sense was, someone who was born, like, their dad was a vampire or something. Now, this, you can just put it on top of your current race. Okay, that seems pretty similar.
It's optional. It does mention it might replace certain things depending on what race you are, but yeah.
Okay, so this is actually something that was introduced in the last major book in D&D 5e, Tasha's. This is related to the lineage system, where instead of choosing a race, you just more get a generic flat template that you can basically shape into anything, which I personally am not a big fan of. But this is different enough that I can accept when it comes to like these Gothic lineages. Dampier.
You cut out there?
Will?
This is cool. Hello?
Hello. We can hear you again.
Sorry, I was talking a lot.
Discord's anti-rant filter popped in. It's fine.
Okay, so short summary. The lineage system that was introduced in Tasha's is too generic, in my opinion, but this UA gives it enough flavor that it's easier to work with, to palate, in my opinion.
So Pathfinder 2nd Edition has a similar thing where like people keep making their Mary Sue OCs, where like, oh, well, I am a half dragon, dragonborn, dragon son, dragon, true blood.
His name is Dragon. King Dragon sends his regards.
So like Pathfinder 2nd Edition does this thing now where it's like, okay, you don't have a race anymore. You have what's called an ancestry, and you can put whatever the fuck you want in your backstory, but you unlock your racial abilities as you level up as a character. So every 2 levels, I believe, you unlock a new trait of an ancestry that you want. And ancestries may just pop up here and there. So let's say you're half goblin, half dragon. Well, like at level 1, you can pick a goblin trait or a dragon trait to put into your character. And then as you get to level 3 or whatever, then you get another ancestry trait. You can go up the ancestry tree, or you can go up the dragon tree. And that is it's a nicer solution, but it is a little inelegant if you want to pick and choose certain things. Pathfinder Second Edition has a lot of problems already. They have this thing called the feat pool instead of feat trees, and it's nice, but it's a little obnoxious. It's not super good.
Yeah, that's my issue. That's my issue with a lot of like Pathfinder stuff. It's that there's a lot of shallow choices where sure you have a whole lot of cool options, but there's only but if you but a lot of them are kind of useless, and you're
Right.
kind of expected to pick the things that are only supposed to help you instead of choosing all the cool stuff.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Like
That.
I
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Combat.
to piggyback off you really quick, Will, the Ren and I just made a character. He's a gunslinger. I'm a hunter. What's our first feat? Point blank shot.
Yep, because even if you're somebody like Combat who doesn't intend to step in, and this is 1E, we haven't played 2E yet, but yeah, in 1E, like, oh, I want to be an archer. Well, we've locked all of the archery feats behind point blank shot, but I'm never going to be in point blank range. Well, sucks to be you. You have a useless feat.
Yeah. Pathfinder Pathfinder also has an over specialization problem where someone linked me this ridiculous feat the other day, and I wish, let me see if I can find it. It's like card slinger, and essentially the way it works is, let me see if I can find it. Um, you need to have like arcane strike or something. You need deadly dealer. Here it is. Deadly dealer. You need arcane strike, which is already very class specific. You need 5 ranks in sleight of hand, and you can throw a card as a dart. And it's like,
so whenever
well,
someone wants to play Gambit,
yeah. So that's like really kind of stupid because it's like, well, if I don't have my trading cards, like this class is what if the only thing nearby is a fucking fork? You know, I can't throw my fork because it's not a trading card. And
I
that's what
attack you with my limited edition Blue Eyes White Dragon card.
Flashback to X in Sans.
right. So it's like it's Pathfinder is really great in that there's a lot of rule hunting, but you know what's going to happen. Like as long as you have a good memory and you can keep track of everything, there is a rule for fucking everything. But the problem with that too is one, you get choice paralysis really hard, and two, you get to the point where it's like, well, I could take this thing that lets me throw, an apple at 10,000 miles an hour and hit that thing across the boat, or I could take this other feat that lets me kill 5 guys at once. I'm going to kill 5 guys.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, Pathfinder, and it might. Oh, sorry, Will, but Pathfinder, and it might just be the people I've played with, has a very and like if you've had other experiences, that's good. But as a general thing, in every Pathfinder game I've ever played, besides when I've taught new people the system, which is the funnest way to teach people because they're like. It seems newer players to Pathfinder are more willing to experiment, but it is okay. I want to do one thing very, very well, even if it makes no. Like I like the way I pick feats, and I know it's not the ideal way to pick feats, but even in 5e with its limited feat pool, how I pick feats is, does it make sense for my character to have this? Like yeah, I mean, and like things like point blank shot and your archery skills are justifiable, but like I believe there's like divine hate or like things called like Ghost Slayer in first edition where your attacks can just hit ghosts now, but you have to have a religion there's a religion requirement and stuff.
yep, I just found it. Yeah. Be it you need 1 knowledge of religion. That's actually like really doable. That is really easy to get. Why is that?
It's also really good if you look at it, but yeah, that's my problem is a a lot of Pathfinder community, and once again, like, this is just observation, seems very metagamey.
Yeah, they have an elitist problem in the Pathfinder because they came from 3.5. People seem to think that 3.5 was a near perfect. It was a not near perfect. It was a great but flawed system, and then people think that Pathfinder was the second coming of Christ, and it fixed all the problems. No, it didn't. It made a lot of things easier.
Exactly.
It created new ones.
Yeah, and the reason why I think that happened was because the main reason why Pathfinder came about was because of uh what was it called, fourth edition, where it's just like very big change.
Hmm.
Which
To be fair, Pathfinder existed before 4th edition because I started on 3.5 Pathfinder hybrid game, and it was like 6 or 7 months after I started that game that 4th edition was announced, and my GM was really excited to take a look at it, and he borrowed a book from someone who like pre-ordered it or something, and he just read it, and he's just like, "Yep, we're sticking with what we got because this is nope."
Fourth ed was the black sheep of the D&D family, and it was odd to say the
Well,
least.
that's really weird because I just looked it up, and Pathfinder First Edition was released in August of 2009, and Fourth Edition was June 6, 2008.
well,
That's weird.
well, to be fair, like I know you got your start on 4th edition, Will, but most people didn't touch 4th edition. Like, one, D&D was falling out of popularity. D&D D&D had the same problem that Pokemon had in my favorite gen. 3rd gen Pokemon was losing its popularity, and so was D&D with 4th edition. And then 4th edition was such a drastic change from 3.5, and the very dedicated numbers game 3.5 is, that you can break over your knee with very little effort because there's like 5,000 books and they all correlate really well.
Mhm.
Well, they like third edition had the what was it, the open gaming license or
Mhm.
something, and so there was a lot you could do with it, and they wanted it to be the universal game. And since everyone adopted it at once, the switch to fourth edition felt like a giant betrayal because literally every fantasy setting picked up third edition. And then they're like, by the way, we're playing World of Warcraft now. And it's like, okay, well, we don't want to play World of Warcraft. We want to play this game that everyone's playing. So
Well, yeah, and to go back on that, I got my introduction to Dungeons and Dragons through fourth edition, but my first game was fifth edition.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
let's see. I'm trying to think. I got introduced in 2006 by a buddy, and at that time we were in third edition, but he played with his relatives, and they refused to play anything other than second edition, and they played second edition wrong. I
Was
mean,
this the D30 group?
yes,
Oh
yes,
god.
it was. Oh my god! Like fuck me. Like System Shock. I could they had this thing called I talked about it in that video, but just to tell you how wrong these guys were, like how badly I got introduced into the game. Granted, I had a lot of fun and it was fun. Like I'm talking shit on them because I love them, you know?
Yeah.
And you can have fun while doing something wrong.
Yeah, no, like they were lovely people. Actually, the aunt that who introduced me to the game from my buddy. You've actually, I think you guys have met Justin. Justin's aunt introduced me. She recently died, and I was very upset by that. Yeah,
Oh.
she she was a nice lady, but um, they were so bad at D&D. There was this rule in second edition called System Shock, which only existed for like 3 instances of ruling. Like if you got hit by polymorph, or if something weird happened to you, like you fell into
Resurrection,
ice,
too, I
like you
believe.
like you fell into icy water or something.
Basically, whenever there's a massive change to your bodily functions, that they just can't handle.
hmm And it was tied to your constitution. And the interpretation that they came up with for System Shock was that if you took over half your hit points and damage, you rolled for System Shock. Which, on like, if you squint at it, that kind of makes sense. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like if someone comes
Massive
up to you
damage.
and if someone comes up to you and like decks you in the face like really hard, there's a chance you might pass out and die. So I
Yeah.
get that. Like I'm a hardy guy. I probably got like 30 hit points. If someone did 15 to me where I feel like I am that closer to death, yeah, okay. But they were mixing that up with the massive damage rule, where if you take over 50 hit points of damage in one attack, you roll a con save or whatever the fuck it was at the time.
It's a con save, yeah,
Yeah, but con save
or
Fortitude.
whatever, fortitude or whatever.
no. Second edition had dumbass saving throws. It was save versus breath,
Oh yeah,
save
yeah.
versus
Yeah,
spell.
I remember that.
Save versus it might have been a save versus death.
I'm trying to
Which is different
remember.
from from death saves, because if I remember right, save versus death actually affected paralysis.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
It was dumb as shit, dude. Like second edition was bonkers, and it was a wonder that it got anywhere. Because I'm about to say it. I'm going to say the word Thaco.
What?
Thaco.
armor
AC0.
yeah, to hit AC 0. Back in the day, combat, the lower your AC was, the better, because 0 was the benchmark.
But here's the thing: a naked human had an armor class of 10, but a human with plate armor had an armor class of 0. So here's how it worked: if you had a Thaco of 10, you had to roll 10 on the dice to hit a person in plate armor.
Mm-hmm. So you were subtracting the roll.
You were it was so dumb. It was the most
So
ass
now-
backwards thing ever. It was so frustrating because like there was no quick way to reference, because not whenever you rolled, you had to know you had to know the AC of everything you were throwing it at. Otherwise, the GM had to do a shitload of math on the fly.
So, Stuart, you, I got a Friday slot open. You want to join my second edition?
Fuck off. Fuck off
We're
immediately.
using D30s.
but I do think we got a little off topic. But yeah, New Unearthed Arcana looks good. Moving on.
Yeah,
Because the-
sorry. Yeah, it's fine. Like I don't care about like
it
it looks fine. It looks
No.
fine.
it gives me hope for the lineage system, because at first I wasn't a big fan of the lineage system, but if this is what they're going to be using it for, I'm a bit more sold on it.
Fair enough. So we'll do. I think. Yeah, we'll do yours, Stuart. Stuart, next on the news. It's not really news, but you do have a sponsor you wanted to talk about that's sponsoring your videos. That was
That's
doing
nice
something
of you.
pretty cool.
Yeah. They're called Crystal Punk. You don't. I mean, this is totally my business. Like, by the way, like, yes. So me talking about Crystal Punk, I do monetarily benefit if you click on this link, etc., etc. I have to state that by U.S. laws, and it's going to take me a second to find the link. But essentially, it is a 5th edition setting, and it is using the 5e system, but like essentially think of cyberpunk combined with like Final Fantasy Magitech, and that's essentially what you have.
That sounds dope. I'll have to give it a look, because like Combat can tell you with Moon, I am a slut for Final Fantasy. In fact, I ran a Thews. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's like one of those general low dice but a lot of creative input RPGs in the Final Fantasy world. It was fun.
I'm not familiar with that one. I know Fate. That's about the only like on the fly RPG system I know.
Think of Fate, but even more even more simplified.
Yeah. So Thews is very easy to explain. It's an open system where the players, like all good things, but even more so baked into the system. The GMs and the players have about equal say on the story. So in Thews you only have 3 stats: warrior, sorcerer, and explorer, and they represent like the like 3 big things adventurers do. So warriors, your melee combat, your archery, and like feats of strength. Sorcerer is your intelligence and your ability to use magic, and then explorer is basically everything else. Then you got 2 traits, one on a D10 and one on a D6, and you talked with the GM to come up with that. Like, let's say I'm making a Conan the Barbarian style warrior. I'd have my highest dice would be warrior, and then one of my D10 traits would be like my battle axe, Soul Reaver. I get it, and that would give you a bonus to roll. I like Thews. Actually, I like it better than Fate, mainly because in Thews, the first thing you do session 0 in a Thews campaign that I've skipped over a couple times when running one shots, but if you're running a full campaign, is you get a map, and the DM draws one central location in the map, and then your players will take turns, how many ever rounds you want to go around it, adding location and adding small tidbits about it.
Yeah, it's a fun way to work about it because it also gets the players hooked into the setting because they help make the setting.
Right.
Uh,
I that sounds fun. It's just I'm just kind of, whenever you observe something from afar, like it's just kind of like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
That
One of us can send it your direction if you're interested.
yeah, it's like I know you don't have a lot of free time on your hands, Stuart. You're a busy man with a wife and child and a YouTube career.
yeah, I say planning on playing Honey Pop the rest of the day. Absolutely. I am way too busy for your taste trash taste.
Oh,
Stuart, shh. We don't want the wrong people hearing you play Honey Pop.
We streamed it for like 5 hours yesterday.
I know that's the joke, but yeah, it's good. And Crystal Punk I will definitely, and I assume for legal reasons, since I'm the one who handles the description and stuff, I'm gonna need that link just so you don't get in trouble.
It's in the
It's in your
podcast link
links.
section.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will make sure that goes where it needs to be. But also, next piece of news that I'm interested in, that I found while we were waiting, Stuart, with your tech issues. Apparently they're doing a new D&D film that's supposed to come out next year.
I believe it. I mean, they're always like D&D was hot for a minute, and Hollywood is always 3 years behind. So.
Yeah, and well, it's interesting because I haven't seen the movie, but they're getting the Detective Pikachu kid to play a role in it.
Okay, I know it's gonna sound bad when I say this because I don't know his name, but the black kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the mixed kid. Yeah, I think he's mixed. I don't know.
We're not blaming you on that. The main kid who somehow is related to Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I genuinely liked him, and I liked him in even in what was it, Jurassic World or whatever.
Yeah, he was the tech guy in Jurassic World.
Yeah, he's a good actor. I just don't know his name offhand.
Yeah,
like I don't know Hollywood as it is. Like the 2 white guys in Black Panther. That is like something I'll say. Like it's not a race thing. It's an identifier.
But it's fine. But yeah, like I don't know. This looks like an interesting project, and I'm definitely, once the world stops being on fire and this comes out to theaters, I'm definitely like putting some money back and gonna go see it because I expect one of two things. The worst thing this movie can be for me personally is mediocre. Like, I hate 5 out of 10 movies. Like, I
Yeah.
Well, as
but
Jello put it, 5 out of 10 is just kind of boring. It's not bad, but it's not good. It's when you get towards the 0 that they're hilariously bad.
Combat, have you ever and I don't know if you've seen it, Stuart, but you being a bigger part of the culture earlier in the early years grabs Kane, even though Combat's older than me. But being part of D&D in the earlier years, you remember the terrible VHS movies?
I remember. Are you talking about the D&D movie, like the
Yeah,
original one?
there's two. There is the one that I think came to theaters, which has got which is the one that stars like the thief kid, the white
Mhm.
kid who's a thief.
And I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
Jeremy Irons was in that one. I think.
Jeremy Irons was the villain,
Yeah.
and he was this really fucking like off the wall like Nostalgia Critic did a great video on it. Like people shit on Nostalgia Critic all the time. Once in a while, like he puts out a banger, and the D&D movie was one of his bangers. Like
I don't mind Nostalgia Critic. I think a lot of that, and we won't get too far into this because it'll go on a tangent. We probably shouldn't be making as a D&D podcast, but I think it's controversy sticking with people that more gets people shit on.
Mhm.
maybe he's like his company's done some shit, and I won't deny that. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
as a creative person who makes videos, I respect the fuck out of his like work ethic. Like
Yeah.
that
Well-
dude produces 20 to 30 minute videos every week, and like they're not bad. Like they're not good, like not all of them, but they're watchable, which
Yeah.
is more than I could say about some of my videos. So
Stuart, quit being so down on yourself. I've enjoyed all your content. That being said, I have yet to watch the Ash Ketchum video.
I kind of I'm not gonna lie, I kind of shooed that one in. It's like, this is a filler to get to the Davy Chappie video this weekend.
And-
Oh, nice.
And that's fair, but it was kind of obvious he's the protagonist in a movie. He's only gonna go one direction.
But no spoilers, Combat. This is a spoiler-free chat, even though we have the creator with us on the video. But yeah, like I said, well, brief tangent, and then we'll do one more piece of news, and move on to what I affectionately call the main topic of today. But
I apologize that I keep going off, man.
No.
That's on me.
it's fine. Like, this is like when I showed you the structure. If it sounded like we were too far close to our structure, that's me being a bad communicator. But tangents are fine. This is a roundtable podcast, so I expect Oh,
My-
especially when we have more charismatic types. Like, not saying that my friends aren't charismatic. I'm not shitting on
Oh no,
on
I'm
you
not charismatic.
on you guys, but especially like Stuart, you have a good amount of charisma, and that tends to lead conversations. So it's fine.
That's
My
a
favorite-
very generous way of approaching. You hijack the conversations really hard.
My favorite my favorite D&D movie is Darkest Dungeon.
the movie based on the Chick Tract.
Yep. I feed off of cringe.
That one's almost unfair because like that one they're playing it straight, but they're clearly making fun of the source material,
Mm,
Like that one is bizarre in of itself, and it's bizarre on purpose.
Yeah, but that's the best form of parody, is just directly quoting the person.
mm, just like, yeah, and some people, especially like people like Chick, are easy to parody. Are easy to parody because, like, I hate to put it this way, but like, I'm gonna do the work to make it funny, but most of this is shit that just came out of your mouth or is in your media. So here.
Yeah. Apparently, it like I. I remember like reading how that movie got produced, and it was just a kid who randomly messaged him and got approval. And
That's
so
great.
he went to Dead Gentlemen, who already have a great track record of making like good, decent quality D&D films. They produced The Gamers 1s, 2, and 3, and they produced Journey Quest seasons, I think, up to 4. And so they're used to doing that sort of stuff, and you could tell they just had a ball. Like they
Yeah.
went to town.
That is definitely like a movie thing that like gets me is you can kind of tell some days when the cast isn't having fun on a movie, but oof, now I'm getting a sidetrack. I'm sorry, but yeah, last kind of newsy thing that's interesting is there's a it's already funded, so but there's a single like a solo tabletop RPG. It's called Coastal. It's in chat. It's the article I linked with the skull on it. And like I don't know how I feel about that. Like and maybe it's just tabletop games for me like have always been a community experience. So
Hold on.
Mhm.
What are we looking at? I'm sorry.
first link in the podcast discussion. Uh
Okay.
I can
It's up a bit.
yeah,
It's at the top.
under February 15th. Hold on, I'll just repost it real quick.
I apologize. I feel dumb.
No, it's fine, man. Here we go. There, now it's at the bottom underneath the homebrew stuff.
Hmm. Oh,
And
fuck off, you. Sorry. We want you to accept our cookies. Fuck off. Like, sorry. Go ahead, man.
So, yeah, I'm just
yeah,
looking. I'm just.
fair. And that's it's pen, paper, journal, and the deck of cards they give with you. But it's a solo RPG where it it feels more like and like this isn't a knock on the people who made it, but it feels more like a book of writing prompts that tried to be gamified, and that's not a bad thing. Like as somebody who gets writer's block doing writing D&D sessions all the time, and is part of the reason why we skipped last session of the Pokemon game I run on Sundays on every other Sunday is it's an interesting idea. I just don't know how I feel about a tabletop RPG that's just you in the game.
It's just it. mm, It feels like I see where you're coming from with the community thing, where it's just like everyone. Part of the fun of role playing is the role play part, where you're just talking to people that aren't you about in character, where it's just easy to talk. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always describe D&D to people who have no concept of it. I say D&D is a collective daydream with rules. And so like essentially the big fun of it is bouncing a ball off of someone who comes up with a completely different idea from you. So like bouncing that ball against a wall can be fun and it will kill a couple hours, but like it's probably not going to create an experience you'll remember forever. Like I still probably can remember most of the adventures I have run
Mm-hmm.
because I'm essentially hanging out with buddies. Like that's all I'm accomplishing.
Yeah,
Um
you don't remember the journey. You remember the fun you had along the way, like all these fun experiences that you had.
yeah, could I remember every dice roll? Probably not, but I can remember pretty like if someone says, "Hey, you remember that session where we like fucked a like fucked a lion centaur with two 2 heads. Oh yeah, that was hilarious. You know,
Yeah.
like
It's a,
I mean, every group has that. The one that's
You ever-
coming to mind recently was from Moon Beholder, where it was just like we have 2 Fays. We have a Dullahan and a Satyr. They existed in the Fey realm. You know how the Fey realm is. And so they're just talking, and it's revealed my character hasn't done it yet. And so this Dullahan, who's wearing a jack-o'-lantern head, is like, how did you get through
Adolescent.
adolescence without losing your virginity?
mhm,
my there's a Tumblr blog called D&D Without Context, and
yeah, I remember that.
it is
that.
it is a glorious blog, and it was basically stuff said at a D&D table with no context, and it kind of bounces off of that. It's like the funniest out of context thing I can say to my buddy is like, remember the orc who was afraid of tables? And it's just that. My favorite one that I saw off of this blog was okay, you can get a +3 bonus, but only if your next action specifically involves that cloud. I have no idea what that means. Like, I want to know the story behind that. Or the gazebo has become such a fucking meme that every
Yeah.
time Alex and I pass a gazebo, we're like, "Oh my god, I fired a +3 arrow straight into the gazebo! Can I detect evil on the gazebo?"
One of my favorite. One of my. I just looked up out of context D&D and somebody posted. It sounds like you're being followed by half a horse, and you have no context behind that. It's just the
I love the one that like just drew my vision because I did check it while we were talking. And like I've played with people, clerics and paladins like this. I have a question. Is it against my religion to deliberately mislead plants?
if you need healing, go touch the disco leopard before it fades away.
Well, that's a thing. That's a thing. Well, and quotes like that make me love certain systems. Like Exalted has. I don't know if you've ever heard of Exalted, but it has a power balance problem in the player's favor. Like Solar Exalteds are stupidly powerful to the point where it's hard for GMs to make challenges for them. But Exalted
Which-
does a thing called stunting, which gives you have a mechanical bonus based on how well the table thinks you described your action.
Yeah, literally fate itself determines that what you want to do is cool enough that they will give you a bonus for it.
Yeah,
That's
it-
kind of hilarious, actually.
yeah, it's roll of cool. So yeah, like you know, you get those people that go, well, I stab him with my sword. They're not gonna get a bonus at all, but you get the guy that's like, oh, I run across, slide across the table in front of me, do 3 front flips, and just cleave this man. And yeah, that's like a +2 bonus. Like it's rule of cool as a mechanic.
Front flips are always cool. It doesn't matter. But you know what's cooler than front flips?
Backflips.
Yeah.
9.
Or you know you know what's cooler than backflips?
Hmm.
2 backflips.
You want to know what's cooler than 2 backflips? The number 3.
Bro.
Uh,
Oh. But no, like yeah, like I said, I'm going to follow this, and if I can get like access to it, I mean, D&D solitaire seems like a cool idea because let's be honest, some people are less. I don't want to say less fortunate because it sounds like if you give this D&D player $1 a day, he can find a group, but less fortunate, and you live in like those very religious, old school religious areas that are like, no, we can't play D&D. That's Satan's magic.
Oh my god.
well,
People who say that have never even seen a table. As soon as they see what the table looks like, they're gonna be like, "Oh, okay." Like my pastor thought that, and then I invited my pastor to a game, And he was like, "Oh, okay." Like
Yeah.
he saw what we were doing. He's like, "No, this is goofy," and he never complained about it again.
Yeah.
So-
We Oh, sorry, Combat.
I had to explain it to my grandma when I was telling when she asked what I had been doing lately a few years ago now. And she's like, "Oh, but this." I'm like, well, it's more like this, and it was mostly she just heard what the media was saying back when she was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, like D&D got heavily dragged into the satanic panic, but no, like, yeah, that's definitely a thing I've had to describe. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Stuart, but I went to Job Corps as a supplementary for my education because it was free. It's basically a tech school, and I started a D&D club there, and I had to get approval from the upper echelons and have that problem, and I was like, well, can you explain it to me? Because this is what I've heard, and like we don't want you worshiping Satan in our establishment. I'm like, no, it's honestly it's 90% like herding cats.
I mean,
God,
fair.
God, that just reminds me of the guy who we had in Job Corps. You have like older staff members because you live on campus that like supervise and stuff, and like I hope he's okay. If you're out there, cowboy, God bless. But the cowboy was like a 70-year-old man still working at this joint, and like he'd run and get us D&D stuff because we'd have to schedule a trip otherwise. And like, hats off to that man because he was great.
My favorite description of D&D is just like it's one guy who's escorting who's escorting 4 to 6 bisexual disasters through a dungeon where the end boss is possibly related to the plot at hand.
Speaking to
I don't even know where I got that from, but
speaking of possibly related to the plot at hand, segue everybody to
Segues.
to the segue. Sometimes when you're going through that dungeon with those bisexual disasters, one of them decides instead of sneaking around the dragon, I'm gonna attack it head on by myself and make myself the target around a combat from the dragon and his cohorts, and they end up dead. Character death, everybody. Let's
Yeah.
transition into it.
Smooth fun right there.
Okay, with the exception maybe Will and Combat. No, yeah.
So
Who-
you and
yeah, me and
Stuart?
Stuart. As GMs, I think we can both freely admit we've killed a player before, once or twice. It's happened.
Yeah, a few times, yeah.
He has a bias. Stuart, you have a bias towards a certain player at your table?
So, okay, all right. Now, there's a difference between killing a character and removing a character.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, every single game Alex plays at that I am DM, I kill Alex, and it just kind of happened like a few times, and then now it's like I'm not trying to do it, but it's like we're watching an episode of South Park. I'm expecting Kenny to die. Okay, like so. It's kind of like that. And
Oh my god, you killed Alex.
Now, granted, when we first started playing D&D, like I was super inexperienced, and originally I favored like I just kind of wanted everyone to have the gear they wanted, and so I gave everyone like I made dungeons so they could get the equipment they wanted, and then we could just make up and go kill stuff and have stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my friends were like, "Oh, you gave Alex like one of the best, like because she had a fascination with the Hammer of Thunderbolts."
Ooh.
Oof.
And the Hammer of Thunderbolts is basically Hammer of Thor. And so she got the Hammer of Thunderbolts, and my friends never let me live it down. So now, like ever since that happened, I was way harsher on Alex than like any other player. And then it just ended up happening where I was just murdering her all the time. But Alex was cool with it. she's like, yeah, all right, that happened. Like it rarely bothers her. So now my friends are like, Jesus, like
I was going to say, but then my brain clicked on. I was like, I don't think you've killed Jade in Utopus, and then I'm like, no, wait, isn't she the only character that's died in both the Nightmare and Dream timeline?
yeah, she's died every time. So like it's kind of a running joke that I kill Alex every time. Um, and she trusts me enough too. Like if and she's also emotionally mature enough to like if a character dies, that's fine. I would not kill off, I'm not going to name names, but like if we were playing a D&D adventure, there are certain people who I will not kill off because I know that would emotionally devastate them, and I value their friendship more than I value telling a good story.
Stuart, if you make Tracy cry, I'm gonna have to pull my what little Patreon money.
Believe it or not,
Not who
I'm
you're talking
joking.
about, I'm guessing.
it probably wouldn't be Tracy who would be the most upset.
And that's fair.
It probably like she now if I like with Pokemon, like Jade's a little more acceptable because she kind of has a character built around the macabre. So having her die is kind of interesting.
It's part of
Because
the
she
joke.
it's
Metaphorical.
it's part of the joke, and it's also part of that character's journey where she treats her life in so little regard that just taking it away means very little to her. But now it's getting very, very interesting where Jade has a reason to live. She wants to have a family with Plaid, and now
That
like
scares her.
fatal, yeah, now that fatal and permanently damaging things are happening, she's getting scared, and so that's what's cool. Um,
Character
so
arc.
now a permanent character death is much more rare. I have done maybe 5 in my entire like 15 years of D&D. Let me think. I'm trying to think of a few like offhand. Like I could probably recall them, but
I murdered Will with a bird.
Yeah, literally, first round, he murdered me with a bird.
the problem is when it comes to like permanent character death, you're already in a fantasy setting, and oftentimes like the most dangerous parts of a D&D campaign are in the beginning when the players are not that well off and they don't have a ton of connections and they're just kind of nobodies.
And
So if you die at like level 1 to 3, you are much less likely to come back to life.
and that's literally what happened to me about a week and a half ago in a game. We were level 3. We were trying to negotiate with some kobolds. The kobolds did not take the negotiating well. And there's a couple alchemists with like 5d6, 15-foot spread alchemist bombs. And yeah, kind of took out most of the party in one shot. But my character was the only to die due to natural one on a saving throw. The DM still allowed the characters to take me back if they abandoned the current mission and make a very hard medicine check to try to bring me back to life non-magically.
That's fine. Like as long as like player's cool with it, and like to give the person I killed the last week credit, Geek was very okay with it. Like this is the consequence of the actions, and it makes sense because it makes sense how he died. Like
He charged a dragon who was the boss over a group of bandits. Hilariously, the dragon never targeted him, but the bandits knocked him out, and the co-GM was controlling the bandits. Was like, okay, would this other bandit like double strike him? I could take him out of right now and just permanently kill the character.
And as I established, and I tried to make this clear when I started, is like it's a bit of like I'm not outgunning to murder you, but especially like bandits and stuff that would benefit more from you being dead, especially when you have no reputation where they can just take your gear and steal stuff. They're gonna be a little brutal, like because I'm not saying I don't like target and this is gonna sound weird because now I'm defending myself, but I don't like target people.
Mhm.
That's the one thing you want to avoid as a GM is like don't make your player feel like they're being targeted. But like if you make yourself a target, like of course they're gonna take you. Like I don't like video game aggro rules, which is what I've seen some GMs run on.
Mhm.
But yeah, the only reason the dragon didn't attack Geek and like fucking barbecue him is the paladin turned themselves into a louder and bigger threat
I
because
mean, they were riding a chariot on the back of it, pulled by a nightmare.
yeah, they Tokyo drifted that fucking chariot, so you know.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the creatures you're fighting. If you're fighting creatures with any sort of intelligence, like any organized group that knows, like that has any kind of meta knowledge, like they understand the party makeup, cleric, wizard, fighter. Um, they're gonna take a look at that motherfucker in star robes and go, "That guy needs to die." Okay, like that guy can rain fire, and he needs to die now. So, like,
and this is the part where the wizard is more heavily armored than the paladin.
yeah, so like it comes down to like context. If there is a fighter who is bathed in blood and like screaming at the top of his lungs and he's standing on bodies, even if there is a wizard, I'm pretty sure that that like all the enemies are going to be like, okay, that's the threat. Like that's the
that
guy.
that guy needs to die. Like definitely like I had a plan and went over with the co-GM. How it worked is what I intended them to do, and it sounded like they were gonna do it. Like you know, best laid plans of mice and men. But
No,
what
Right.
it's
contact
what
with
it
the players.
yeah 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 contact with the players, but no encounters describes contact with the enemy. I'm kidding. Never see your players as the enemy.
You're
Yeah.
all players.
Yep. Yep. But and it seemed like they were doing well. Like basically what I wanted to do is go ahead and give them their I know it's weird to call it this, but their player housing because
Our
Their-
future base.
Their headquarters.
yeah,
The headquarters.
their base of operations because it's like a half a day's ride from a day and a half's ride from the capital, and it's the perfect place for it, and it's already pre-fortified. So I gave them like a bandit fort. Somebody asked them to go sack because they're a party of seven.
Mhm.
Seven decently leveled adventurers at this point. But they've so I gave them like a full bandit fort. I was going to have something with the story, but then then the plan went off to explain more why there was a dragon running this fort. I've told Combat about it now, but so they go in. They have a lot of ranged attackers because Moon. I did ask like, can you, with the exception of one player and the character who died, people were playing at least half casters because what's basically what's the fun in not being able to engage with the core plot of oh you're fighting at night now, your magic may not work, so you know, oh I'm a fighter, I don't have that problem. But the plan was, and it sounded like it was going well. They saw the thing. I gave them a high space to go look at it, and they're like, "We'll take out the bandits on the rampart." And then the bard's like, "Okay, I'm using the Final Fantasy class book as one of the books I can pull through. It's really good." And they're like balanced to the point of sometimes being useless, unfortunately. But one of the players was the player who died was a dragoon, and Ballard's like, "Well, I've got a dimension door. I can teleport us once that area gets cleared." So they do it. They clear the area and then teleport, and then it comes to the turn of the dragoon. Dragoon's not like, and it seemed like they agreed on, okay, we're gonna run around the edge, kill the guards, and then deal with the main threats. No, the dragoon just jumps down from the guardhouse using his jump ability and stabs the fucking dragon, making himself a target. and like, it's fine. Like, also, like, I didn't feel as bad killing that character because technically that was that guy's second character. The other one's out on doing soul searching, so we're gonna bring her back in.
But point is, it was his own mistake, so it was easier to justify. You sometimes feel bad when you go to kill a character and it was just like, oh, this was just bad RNG, or
Mhm.
X,
It-
you know.
It's and in that case, when it comes to like kills based off of RNG, it's best to have those happen early on when their personal plots or just have like their plot points enter haven't entered into the fray yet, because then you
Mm.
get situations like Sabin,
Uh,
which I'll let Brendan, one of you guys, handle that
I
because
I I can take Sabin. You're Alex is very big into Fire Emblems. But I ran a Fire Emblem themed 5e campaign. There's a hack for it. I realized the hack after the campaign's finished didn't account for the fact that spellcasting is just better in 5e than it is in the Fire Emblem game. But yeah, they met a second or third session. They met a bandit that they recruited because he kicked Combat's monk's ass all up and down the place while they were one-shotting. They were like 2 or 3 shotting the other bandits.
I used patient defense every single turn, and he rolled nothing below an 18.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Stuart.
Hmm?
I'm sorry, Okay, I wasn't sure if you were there.
I'm here. I'm here. I might need to use the little content creators room. Like,
Fair enough.
so
Fair enough.
I'm gonna excuse myself for just a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Just let us know when you're back. But yeah,
I will use the mute button. There you go.
fair enough.
Neat.
But yeah, there's and like I can continue telling the story, but yeah. But no, I'm fine with that also. Like I am definitely fine with plot relevant NPCs dying. Like
Mhm.
that's
But it just seems kind of shitty to have it happen just when their plot was about to kick off.
I mean, I hate to put it this way, but I like realism and that's life. Sometimes you don't get your plot to kick off.
Yeah.
Like
And that's just the status of who you are as a DM or a GM, whichever term you need to use for legal reasons.
actually Dungeon Master isn't a copyrighted phrase, you can use it.
Oh, interesting.
Well, they couldn't, because if I remember correctly, and I'll have to find the article, they couldn't copyright Dungeon Master because that's actually the term for the owner of a BDSM club.
Okay then.
Yeah. At least that might be misinformation that I read somewhere and is completely wrong, but
Anyways, it's one of those things, do you want to continue to tell the story, or are you valuing what happened at the table in a sense more than,
Mhm.
the story
Yeah.
you were planning on telling? And it might
that-
be
in
different
that
because
case,
he was an
it's based on-
NPC versus a player character.
But on the plus side, when it comes to like telling a story, again, if it's gonna happen, if you're wanting to kill somebody, if the dice are wanting to kill somebody, I personally would rather see it happen before they become the player becomes plot important. For example, Tasgar, and I know combat friend I know that you think I'm still salty about that, but in fact you're more salty about it than me. Just
oh no, I find it hilarious more than
but
I'm salty about it.
but yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, for the viewers at home. So during a 3-player campaign ran by Ren, I had I brought in a sorcerer, a dragonborn sorcerer by the name of Tasgar. I I remembered that he was going to be like this fun, happy-go-lucky guy who just wanted to be a stage magician, basically, and became a he became a hunter of meat because that was going to be the plot of the game. First round of the first hunt of the combat, the first round. A giant eagle came flying in and clawed me to, and then clawed me, knocked me right to death's door, and I think I crit failed and then failed again.
Yeah, no, you crit failed, and then the boars got spooked, so they charged, and I rolled independently for direction. Unfortunately, one of the 3 boars charged over your corpse, and that failed your last death save for you.
Okay, yeah. So again, I'm personally not very salty about that because I haven't had the. It was the first round of combat. I was salty about it in the moment because that's basically a whole character that died for very little, died like a chump. But then I brought in my character for the rest of the game, and then another character died in the second session. Uh,
Look. And we'll get Stuart's opinion on this when he comes back. Hey,
He's
I am
back.
magic. I am magic. But yeah, like Stuart was saying earlier, D&D is more dangerous at the lower levels because I hate to say it, but like, and maybe it's just the old days of like running meat grinder dungeons at cons, but it's kind of hard to die in newer editions of 5e or of D&D.
Yeah, no, I'm my favorite levels of most fantasy settings are between 3 and 6, where the players
mhm.
are starting to get strong and you can start bringing in like monsters and stuff with like interesting tactics. But once they start unlocking shit that like shifts the entire environment, then it's like, okay.
Once the full casters third level unlock third level spells, then it kind of becomes a moot point.
Well, third level spells are fine as long as you only have like 1 or 2 of them. Like you've got your nuclear option. You've got 1 fireball. And
Mhm.
I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Like I you got to save that, you know? It's like it's like your temporary win button. And the fighters can one shot a nobody, but they're going to have problems with a boss, you know?
Mm,
So
Mhm.
those are my favorite levels in D&D.
Mhm.
When it comes to like that's when players get their most creative at low and mid levels. Once they start getting to like level 12, there's some fucking spell that solves the problem, or there's something like there's some kind of magical story doohickey that's doing it. It's not like
or you
yeah.
or
yeah,
you get or you get like the wizard who, because they have so many spells, just starts casting teleportation circle on a piece of paper and then folding it up for later use.
yeah,
Yeah, something like there's always like a very fast solution that doesn't require a lot of thought at high levels, and that's the part where D&D loses me.
mhm,
Mhm.
yeah. Like, I'm sorry. I understand the purpose of it, but like, kind of hate the spell Revivify. I hate that you get it at. Yeah, like it's expensive. It costs a diamond, but you get
Mhm.
it at such low levels, and with the way D&D does time, unless you're having a big battle, yeah, like right at the end of the battle, slap the diamond on him. Revivify is done because a minute is 10 rounds, and most combats aren't going to last 10 rounds unless you're, artificially extending the combat, or it's like a siege scenario.
Mm.
Or you're playing Fire Emblem.
Well,
I'm sorry, I had to get that. I had to get my jab in
like,
because.
like, like I said, like the Fire Emblem style game does not work with D&D. Like if I ever run Fire Emblem again, it's definitely gonna be like either I'm gonna look at the Fire Emblem system that one guy made, or I'm going to use like Thews or Fate or something that like doesn't make magic as overpowered as it is. Like, I know,
Honestly, yeah, Thews would probably be the best way to have it be that way.
yeah, because the problem is, like, I don't think the person who wrote the Fire Emblem hack realized what kind of power he was giving classes. Like, oh, what are their black mages called in Fire Emblem Combat? Help me.
The shamans?
Yeah, you're a shaman. You get warlock stuff, which means you have limited spells, but they're cast at highest level, and like 90% of higher level spells are AOE. Well, this is Fire Emblem. You're going to be fighting mostly soldiers and stuff, and then like mages later.
And you're usually going to have a long rest between fights.
Yeah.
So,
but we are approaching hour 50. So, Stuart,
Yeah.
do you have any more death stories when you killed players?
There's two that immediately come to mind. As in permanently remove their character, or like.
I feel like permanently remove is what we're talking about here because if you're just killing a character for the like you said with Jade, her death actually played into her story instead of taking her out of the story.
Right.
Which is more the issue with like character death.
It's kind of a. It could be either or. Like I kind of view it as this is obviously a GM discrepancy or a decision thing. Stuart runs a show, so from a meta standpoint, it'd be stupid to kill this character that he's had for so long in this story that's integrated into the story.
Right. So like yeah, so what was his name? There's a content creator called Mother's Basement who death is only interesting when like it happens in a way. Okay, so I'm trying to think. Death can be really, really good, or it can be utterly useless. Because, for example, like the way we kill Jade, she's not really dying. She's kind of going somewhere else for a minute, and then she's coming back. So, like, for all the function that serves, you might as well say, and then she got on a bus for a while and went on vacation. I mean, like that's kind of what most death is in most literature and fantasy settings. That's one of the reasons. Yeah, DBZ death. Like DBZ death is fascinating because there are some characters who cannot die, because if they die, then that does change the narrative. So death can exist in DBZ, sorta, and there can be tension, although super does whatever the fuck it wants anymore. But if we're staying on topic, characters who I have permanently removed from a game, I can immediately think of two. One time, this is probably the fastest I ever removed a person. We were playing a very serious setting. Like the setting was taking itself seriously. The players were taking it seriously. But my friends were like, "Hey, let's bring in all these new people," and I went, "Okay." One guy in particular was the self-appointed funny guy, and
yes, the funny
I
guy.
I brought him in. I brought him in, and I gave them plenty warning. I said, "Hey, you are in a country of religious zealotry, and you cannot be an asshole. Okay, like this is like this is not politically correct to say, but this is like intolerant militant Islam. Okay, like this is not okay to do here."
Or Deep South.
Or Deep South. Bit more serious than that, but you get the idea. So this guy comes in, he's like, "I'm the religion that they all hate," and I go into the middle of the tavern and I take out my dick and I piss on this is not a joke. This is kind of verbatim what he was doing. And he's like, "I piss on your religion." And I'm like, "They kill you."
Oh yeah,
I just you do I get a roll? No. Don't bring that shit here and expect it to happen. They take you into the town square and publicly execute you. You fucking dolt. And that is one time I just I was more removing a problem player than removing a character. So that one I wouldn't say counts, but I did do it. and I didn't even give them a roll. I just said they kill you. Like,
I mean, there's a certain
that's-
threshold that no, it doesn't matter how well you roll. You're not escaping the giant mob in
Yeah.
the tavern.
it's not happening, and
Yeah.
you're derailing my game for your fucking whatever this is, and I'm not having it.
Funny boy thing.
Yeah, so I just said a few days later the kerfuffle dies down, and then I go back to the people I was playing with. So like, they're like, well, that was a nightmare. So another time where I permanently killed a person, we were doing Kingmaker. So you can't say I don't run modules, but it was it was Stuart's Kingmaker, which is different than regular Kingmaker.
Yeah.
But they made it to a what am I thinking? They made it to a temple in the middle of the woods, and there were zombies in the water or something. And one of the players like took a bowl of water and started doing something, and the zombies popped out and they started attacking everybody. And the thing is with zombies and Pathfinder,
Mhm.
zombies can only be damaged by slashing weapons. In the party, well, they can be damaged by other things, but you have to hit them really hard. They have like a DC of 5 slashing weapons. But the party
Yeah.
had my wife's gunslinger, a
Oh,
Which is
piercing
bludgeoning
damage.
piercing.
bludgeoning piercing. They had my buddy's gnome sling thrower, a
Bludgeoning.
cleric with,
Bludgeoning.
a cleric with a mace, and then a blood rager. And the blood rager was the only guy doing anything. He had his axe, he had his like claws because he was a dragon, of course, and he was just like tearing into them. And he got into the middle of them all because he was cleaving and he was doing really well. And they just straight up overwhelmed him. I got some
Oh.
lucky crits, and I'm like, guys, you can either keep fighting and risk ending the campaign, or I can let them devour your blood rager and you can get away. And the players were discussing it, and the blood rager said run, and he died.
Yeah.
So they got away, and I'm like, you know what, that's a good death.
Mhm.
That's a
And-
good death. So
And I don't know. I'm fine with like killing off a character, especially like talk with them afterward. Like the big thing is talk. If it's not a big blow up, talk with them afterwards, which is what I did with Geek, which is why we're bringing in his hiatus character. We can say she just went on a bus for a while, but and that's fine. Like because like they had one close call death, near death, early in the campaign, and then this one, like I kind of see it as a tone establishing. Like no, like if you're not smart, this world will kill you, and unfortunately, you had to find that out. The party had to find that out the hard way.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But-
it just okay, so to saddle back on that, or to you know what I'm saying. When it comes to death overall, in my opinion, unless it a good death is one that pushes the plot forward.
Mm.
Like if you ideally if the death is caused, it takes away more from the plot than the plot gains from killing the character. I'm kind of iffy on killing characters personally,
mhm.
and I know that's not realistic, but that's
Yeah,
that's
Yeah, that's also your
That's just-
choice as the GM.
yeah.
Yeah.
As a GM, that's your choice. Also, like Sabin's death was actually a big weight off my shoulders because like it was dice, but I did also kind of write myself into a corner with him, so I was okay like with him dying. Like
and for like Tasgar, we did we did not lose we did not lose any plot with him with his death because he didn't have a plot to lose yet.
yeah, like and like killing of Geek, they're still in like yeah they've had some character relations, so I expect people to be sad about it.
But he
But-
in game wise, he was only with us for his character was only with us
Week
for
and a
about
half.
a week. Yeah, week and a half.
Mhm.
So
Well,
like,
when you're in the apocalypse, any death is bad.
but yeah, well, it's not the apocalypse yet. It's the Moon Beholder is slowly gaining power, but that's a plot thing I won't go into when one of my players is in the call. But
I am your roommate. I hear half of this stuff anyways.
I'm trying to keep GM integrity.
It's incoming disaster.
Mhm.
Anyways,
But yeah.
we're getting to that point. Since we hinted at it earlier, should we end with the best $20 you ever spent, Stuart, and then go with our shilling?
Yeah, let's do that. To summarize and just to have a clear end, if I want to timestamp this later for ease of viewing on the ease of listening on the YouTube. To summarize, honestly, it's a case by case basis. Yeah, you're gonna have players that are mad that their character died, but honestly, just talk. Be adults about it. And I know that's kind of hand waving the thing, but like we can't talk about your we we can't really speak for your experiences through ours. Just talk with your player, like not
Communication
to,
is important.
yeah, not to shill somebody who has enough money already, but Matt Mercer has a good video on the channel Critical Role is hosted on and YouTube talking about character death. Give that a look. I might link it in the description. But
Might. You probably
What?
just look it up.
look, I accidentally forgot to credit Kaz for the fucking logo art last session. First session. Yeah.
Shame on you.
Don't worry, I rectified it pretty quick, but I was like, fuck, I'm sorry. But
Oh.
But yeah, so I'm not gonna promise, but yeah, case by case basis, and that. So transitioning, yeah, with our last.
Actually, I think that's a good place to. If we wanna come back to the best $20, we can spend it another time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair
next
enough.
time. Next time you come on, because you're welcome to come on, Stuart, and you can definitely, because this server is not going to get that much this much bigger than it already is. If you want to lurk and you hear us discussing something and like, hey, I want to hop on, that's always your prerogative, man. You kind of were important to the facilitation of this group because 90% of us met on your server.
Yep.
So
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
but
What
yeah,
I'll do, I'm gonna here's what I'll do then. I'm gonna throw you into my group of D&D groups that I'm in, but I'll put you in the friends groups of D&D groups
Yeah.
that I'm in. So if I would say once a month, like just put your topics up and just tag me when you have your list of topics, because otherwise I'm in probably
50?
60 Discord groups
Oh,
right now.
I undershot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and most of it is for networking purposes, or like all the hentai ones. So like, like
hey, we don't kink shame on the Table Trash podcast. You're fine.
Besides, I'd be hypocritical if I too didn't appreciate the big anime titties.
But
Okay, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is too many. Granted, I put Tracy's Discord server in the hentai list, so that might be stretching it a bit. So like,
I mean,
It's Tracy.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, of course, I will make a note to do that in just my personal networking notes then, Stuart. But that being said, let's start with you, Stuart. As our esteemed guest, what you got going on in the new future you want to shield?
Let's see. I don't know when this is going up, but this weekend, this Saturday, supposedly on the 20th, if everything works out, provided the frickin' day after tomorrow doesn't kill us all. On the 20th, I am dropping a video in collaboration with Dabby Chappie about how to do a Pokemon D&D campaign and the overview. And on his channel, he is going to do the overviews of how to play Pokemon D&D.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll be nice. PT, I know you guys play some weird hybrid of PTU and PTA.
Yeah, we like that. That's me. I just take some rules and I'm like, I like these rules, and then I'll take other rules and I'll be like, I don't like these rules, and yeah, I essentially stapled 2 books together.
That's fine because I don't know if you know this, Stuart, but those 2 books were made by the same group of people.
I was aware of that, yeah.
But no, okay. So
And then he has a Kickstarter.
Yep.
Oh,
Nice.
and then yep, we got our sponsors, the Gooey, not Gooey Cube, excuse me. That was the different ones. This was Crystal Punk. Please go support them. It is basically Magitech combined with Cyberpunk, and it's really, really cool. It's really dark and edgy, and I sometimes really like dark and edgy. And I don't know what that like grinder is, but like it's an interesting sound, whatever that is.
It was Will.
Sounds like a stone grinder or something.
That's my teeth. I was eating Cheez-Its the whole time.
Pro tip: pick up the bowl. Just pick it up. That's happened like 3 times, buddy. Like,
But full disclosure, they're supporting Stuart, not
sorry.
us. We are too small for sponsorships.
We are not important.
doing it again.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's a reverb on his mic. We are not very high tech here. We use what we got.
I'm teasing too. I am not upset.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's
No,
fine.
it's
Will.
fine. Don't.
It's okay. Well, other than that, you got Did you
I'm
get?
sorry.
I'm sorry. Life's been crazy, so I haven't been able to pay as much attention to the announcements channel and Loading Crew. You either recently uploaded a video of Megami's game or have one in the works that you recorded. One of the two.
Are you talking about
Mystery Dungeon, yeah.
her mystery dungeon? Yeah, no, we've got a second gaming channel called Loading 2 where we upload her Pokemon campaign, and I can drop that. I can drop that if you like. Your audience might be more interested in that. Actually, I'm gonna someone private message me because I already lost the server.
Give me a second.
Mood.
Stuart.
Here we go. Podcast links. There you go.
Okay.
Yep. Cool. But yeah, that we do appreciate you coming on, Stuart. We really do.
No, thanks for having me, and I appreciate you letting me hijack your conversations.
It's fine. We hijacked the conversations about the same.
Yep. And if you want for credit purposes, when you get the time, just PM me all the information you want in your credit in the doobly-doo.
Yeah, just Stuart, Loading Crew. That's all you need. I'm good.
Stuart,
Yeah.
Loading Crew, links.
Yep.
I'm believe it or like, despite what it sounds like, I'm actually not a giant shill, and I don't like doing that whole like and subscribe and thumb me up and subscribe to my OnlyFans and my LinkedIn and ding dong that bell and like fucking
God, you say that.
Stuart, I consider you not a close friend, but a distant friend, and I don't know if I could respect you the same way I do if I saw your OnlyFans. I'm sorry.
I mean, you don't need to be lewd on an OnlyFans.
You know, I what I do, I'm just cooking food around like 5 rotary fans, and those are my OnlyFans.
Fair enough. That just reminds me of that meme where I paid $1,000 for this 1 terabyte OnlyFans link. I don't know what I was expecting, but somebody sent the guy a terabyte zip file of pictures of fans.
Well, all right then.
But no, yeah, we're glad to help you. glad to help you. I'm sorry, Stuart.
It's fine. It's fine.
We're glad to have you. Let's see. Will, let's be the perfect time if you want to mention it. I know you made some progress on your mod.
Oh, right. I guess I can do that. So as I mentioned, I did. I was making I am currently making a Crusader Kings 3 mod for that is set in the world of Onath. Once I
Will?
Did he?
His internet might have crapped out.
Yeah. Yeah.
1 second, I'll just smack him really quick.
Yeah. Hello?
I was talking.
I know you were. I know you were.
Discord.
Fuck Discord. Anyway, so yeah, I guess I can share. Anyway, so I was making so I'm currently making a Crusader Kings 3 mod that is set in my D&D set currently. Well, an alternative version of that, but that's the point. So unfortunately, I still don't have a lot, but once I get a bit more, I'll be glad to share and chill that out, I guess.
Fair enough. We're still on hiatus for your game, so other than upload schedule being no, I'm talking about combat. I'm sorry, Will.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still on hiatus for your game combat, but your channel gonna be uploading anytime soon?
Yeah, I haven't since the last one. Life has been weird. But hopefully I'll start uploading within the next... I hope to upload something in the next week, because I really need to start doing that again.
Yeah. An uneven upload schedule. I know you're doing this as a look the cool thing, but yeah, an uneven upload schedule unfortunately can kill a channel.
I don't think I even have like 30 subscribers. Hell, I doubt I have 20.
Anyway, so you've got that. In my world, just looking for work. I'll be looking at the podcast and editing that together. One of our associates that's not here, by the name of Merc, manages our Twitter for the podcast, so it'll be on that, and excuse me, also shared through my personal Twitter. That I think I'm working on any big projects. I abandoned my system I was working on because it was ill-conceived. So
Eh, sounds pretty good for a stopping point. I hope
Yep.
everyone has a
Yeah.
good day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whichever day it is.
Yep. Once again, thank you for joining us, Stuart.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.